What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a big battery, a Group 31 battery versus a dual battery setup. So behind me I have my 4Runner, which has the Group 31 battery, and then the Tacoma that has the dual battery setup. So today we're going to be talking about pros and cons of both and why I think the Group 31 big battery is going to be better for a weekender like ourselves and possibly you. All right, let's get the hood popped on the 4Runner. Underneath the 4Runner, we have the big Group 31 Odyssey battery. So this here is a very big battery compared to what comes in it. It's almost about 30% or so bigger, but it still fits within this space that Toyota gives you. And this big battery, we'll go through everything, what's on it, what these things are, and what all these wires are. But essentially, this is our single big battery setup. There is nothing over there. And this right here is our power tray setup, which we do need to do some cleanup underneath there. But today's focus is going to be on this guy here. Under the Tacoma, we have a full throttle battery. This here is a Group 24F, and we have two of them, one over here and one over here. It's under some heat shield just because we have our turbo set up right here. So that's going to be right there. We have a lot of wire cleanup to do on the Tacoma just because we just put this turbo back together. We had to pull a lot of the wires out. So pardon me for that, but we're going to be talking about the dual battery setup on the Tacoma and the Group 31 on the 4Runner. Let's talk about the Group 31 battery first, what we have going on here, and everything about this setup. So the Group 31 battery, it is larger than a 24F, which is on the Tacoma, or a Group 35, which is the other option you can install on both the Tacoma and the 4Runner. As far as battery output, the Group 31 battery has about 30% more than the 24F or the 35. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take some measurements. I have a tape measure here. Want to get some physical dimensions on how much bigger the Group 31 is compared to the 24F. So we don't have a perfectly flat measuring surface here, but we're about 13 inches all the way across there from here to here. Now on the Tacoma with the 24F, we have 11 inches. So the Group 31 is about 2 inches bigger than the 24F. The other physical difference between a 24F and a Group 31 is going to be this right here. So this is a battery post, which is on pretty much every standard battery. There's that one right under there. Now that's a 24F. Over here on the 4Runner, there is no post. So what you guys see here is our battery terminal. And what is on the actual battery is this guy right here. This is a stud. So what we have mounted to that is a nut. So basically it's just a threaded stud that comes out of that hole on the top of the battery. And it's in the center of the battery versus being back here where most batteries are. That brings us to what you guys see on top here on the positive side and negative side. This here is the R4T battery terminals made specifically for the Group 31. Being that the Group 31 battery has a stud that comes out of the center of the battery instead of back here where the Group 35 and Group 24 batteries are, this here is your factory battery terminal that will normally go over the post, but now can't reach the stud on the Group 31 battery. So our solution is that we made this battery terminal here, which is composed of 3 parts. On the very bottom, you have a plastic that is non-conductive, obviously, because it is plastic. In the middle, this anodized part that you guys see gray on the negative side and then red on the positive side are aluminum. Aluminum obviously will allow you to use your battery terminals and to provide power to your vehicle. Now, you guys see a lot of studs here, instead of just one stud that normally is on the normal battery. A normal battery has the post that you connect all your power to. And I'll put up a picture that kind of displays a really good point. So everybody, when they add a lot of accessories like our vehicle has, that everything goes to one post. And we didn't like that. So our solution is that we added 1, 2, 3, 4 posts to it. So that way now power is distributed through 4 posts and ground instead of just one single post. So first we fix the issue that the stud is in the center. Now there's a nut that connects that, distributes the power throughout the aluminum, and then there's 4 studs that allows you to distribute the rest of the power to whatever accessories you have, like your winch or your lights or your air compressor, whatever that may be, is now distributed evenly, so everything is not just on one single stud or post. And then the very top part here is the third component, which is acrylic with a chamfered edge to it. This is the latest version of the battery terminal, which has the chamfered edge on the terminal, so there's no sharp edges. And each post that connects to the actual ring terminals is actually grinded down now, so there's no anodization where it actually makes contact with metal. But everything else that doesn't have contact is still anodized, so it has a nice look to it. It's really just cosmetic, which is why it's red and this side is gray. Now the only modification you guys will need to do is, one, you guys will have to cut the edge of your negative terminal connection point and bend the bracket, because normally it's at a 90-degree angle. You will have to bend it so it's almost flat. That way it can reach to this terminal. On the positive side, there's no cutting involved, but you will have to bend the bracket just a little bit because it's used to sitting on the edge of the lip, but now it's sitting a little bit further in. So that's all you will have to do to make it work. So as you guys can see here, we have a lot of things going to the battery terminals, and we'll talk a little bit about this battery tie down with these resettable fuses in the middle a little bit later when we talk about the power tray. Over here on the Tacoma, you guys will see the standard battery post that you get on there. Pretty much every vehicle that comes off the lot from factory battery terminals, and the positive side is factory as well. But as you guys can see here, there's just a lot that is connected to this one single post, especially on the positive side. And you guys can see here, this one nut is barely holding on because it is pretty much tapped out as far as what you can add to this. So this is a good point to show you guys why we have 4 posts on the Group 31 battery terminals compared to just trying to add everything to one single post. On the negative side, it's not too bad because right here on the fender wall is actually where we have all of our negative wires, which obviously is the same issue. It's just now on the fender wall instead of on the battery post. So the one big disadvantage of having a dual battery setup is the biggest, in my opinion, is the location. Now you have to make room over here for a secondary battery. On a Tacoma, it's not so bad. 4Runner, you have to move a few things here and there, but it's not horrible. But let me go show you on my 4Runner. So my 4Runner has the Expedition 1 reservoir tank. This is a relocation tank. If you guys know what this is, you guys probably have one or have been looking at it, but the main purpose of that is when you guys run large tires like this, the factory location of a washer tank is here, and the large tire will make a hole and rub a hole into that washer fluid tank where it's normally mounted. That's why we had to get a relocation tank, which is now up here. But with this being here, we had to relocate the air pump. That air pump was over here next to the power steering tank, but now it's over there. So now we don't have a location for a secondary battery if we wanted to, unless we wanted to relocate that another time. So that brings us to the number one disadvantage, which is space. And as you guys can see here, it takes up a lot of space in this corner here. We have it mounted from front to back, which isn't the way this tray was designed. We got this installed from our buddies over at Juniper Overland, which has been amazing, by the way. But it was mounted the other way from side to side, but being that we installed the turbo on our vehicle, we weren't able to run it side to side, or else it would make contact right there. And the turbo gets super hot already, so we had to have a shield on here to prevent this from melting. So that's number one disadvantage. Now let's talk about number two, which is cost, and why I think a big Group 31 battery is better than a dual battery setup for the average weekender off-roader. So, cost. This thing, a Group 31 Odyssey battery, AGM battery, costs around $600 at runningfortacos.com, or you can also find it locally at pretty much any auto parts store, and that will come with just a battery. Now, let's go over to the Tacoma. A dual battery setup, Odyssey or full throttle battery, 24F or Group 35 will cost you about $400. That's for one. If you have to buy two, obviously that's $800. Now you also have to buy all the stuff that comes with a dual battery setup. So you have to buy the tray, the tie downs, the charger, and the tray, the tie down for the secondary battery as well, and all the cables that come with it. That will run you about $1,000 to $1,500 on top of the $800 you will have to buy for the two AGM batteries. With the Group 31 battery, the only other things you guys will have to buy are going to be the R4T battery terminals, which will allow you to mount this to the battery, and longer J-hooks. The longer J-hooks will allow you to hold your battery down. Since this battery is a little bit taller than the factory one, you will be required to buy a little bit longer J-hooks. The J-hooks with the battery terminals will put you about a little bit over $200. So $200 plus the battery itself will be $800 total. With the dual battery setup, you guys will only be able to buy two batteries with $800. You guys won't be able to buy the charger, the trays, the tie down, the cables, any of that to actually make the dual battery setup work. Now let's talk about what else we have on the battery here. So you guys won't need this. This here is the battery tie down and resettable fuses from PowerTray. There is two of them on the battery. And like I said, you guys will not need this. You guys will just need the longer J-hooks to install your Group 31 battery. On top of that, you will need the R4T battery terminals, but besides that, you guys will not need this here. This is optional, along with the PowerTray tray setup here. This is really kind of to keep all your accessories and everything organized. So you guys see here, this is new. We just added this, so it's just kind of dangling here. That runs to our air compressor that we have a switch added right here. But this here is basically a fuse that if it pops, we can just reset it, so that way we don't have to buy a new fuse. These are great. This is a 100 amp, and this one up here is a 120. We have one of it connected to our Switch Pro, and the other one is to another accessory. But this is completely different. You guys will not need this for this setup. This is just great if you guys have a ton of accessories like we do, winches, lights, compressors, and all these other things. Now let's talk about the usage for the dual battery setup versus the single battery. So if you guys are like me, which this video is made for, this is going to be the way to go with a single big Group 31 battery, because my Tacoma with a dual battery setup, I never have anything connected to it. I don't have a fridge connected to it. I don't have any accessories that need power all the time, because for me at least, I just drive to work, and on the weekend I'll go out, use my fridge, use other accessories that might need power, but that's on the weekend, which is why, you know, this is really the perfect setup for a weekender. So if you guys are traveling a lot all the time, then it makes sense for you guys to have the dual battery setup. If you guys are traveling long lengths at a time and staying out for long lengths at a time, then it would make sense for the dual battery setup. But at that point, you guys will have a camper, you guys will have a pull-along trailer or something like that to make your travels comfortable. So in my opinion, the dual battery setup is great for anybody who is really, like, I guess, has the time to go out and spend long lengths of period at a time. So I'm gonna show you guys my perfect setup. So in the front, in the engine bay, you have a Group 31 big battery, just one. Back here, you will have some kind of portable power station. This here is my Goal Zero Yeti 1500X. I currently have it turned around so I can show you guys the back side of here. On top here, I have the Yeti Link connected to the Yeti 1500X. So my Goal Zero 1500X pretty much lives in the back of the 4Runner right here. And I have it connected pretty much at all times to the vehicle. So this little guy right here in the corner is called the Yeti Link. The Yeti Link is connected to the vehicle's battery, and my 1500X pretty much stays topped off at all times. So whenever the vehicle's on and running, it'll charge my 1500X. And then when the vehicle's off or the battery is below 13 volts or something like that, it'll stop pulling power and stop charging the power station. So it's smart enough to not drain the vehicle battery, so that way you're not left stranded somewhere. So that's pretty cool. And I also have a solar panel on the roof rack that is ran here. I could plug it right here, and it's pulling in wattage right now. It's a pretty sunny day, but we're not getting direct sunlight. So it's pulling about 59 watts or so right now, and it'll keep my Goal Zero 1500X topped off with that. So when the vehicle is not running, the solar panel is charging the power station. So pretty much at all times, this guy is gonna stay at 100%. So whenever you get to camp, this will be at full 100%. So you don't have to worry about, oh, is my power station being drained by my fridge or whatever that you have hooked up to it. Usually when we're going camping, I have a fridge and I'm charging my camera batteries and other things are plugged into this. So usually without the solar panel, without the Yeti Link, this thing will get drained to about 80% by the time I get to camp. So it's really nice to have both the solar panel and the engine charging the Goal Zero 1500X when I'm driving to camp. So that way when I get there, completely topped off. So being that this is portable, you guys can remove this when you guys get to camp, plug in your chargers, plug in your stove, plug in your blender, pretty much plug in whatever you guys want. And when you guys are done, you can put it back in the vehicle. So right up here, I have the Goal Zero 100 solar panel mounted to our front runner roof rack. I have a whole separate video of us installing the panel, the Yeti Link, and the 1500X in the back in a separate video. I'll put it up in the corner here if you guys want to check it out. But that's our opinion on the single big Group 31 battery versus the dual battery setup. We honestly think this is really the best setup for a weekender warrior, kind of like us, who really goes camping on the weekends and doesn't really do long overlanding trips. I wish I could, but we don't really have the time for it. But honestly, this is a great setup. So we'll have everything down in the description if you guys want to pick up everything that we mentioned in this video. But that's going to be it for this time. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel already, please do so, and we will see you guys in a later video. Peace.